Hi everyone and welcome to Moementum channel. Today in this video I wanted to talk to you about a simple 3-step method for budgeting and how to manage your finances. The technique is called MOE Budgeting Technique. The first step is measure. This step involves you to measure all your expenses and all the income that you are going to accrue in a month. So what you're going to do is every day as you incur any new costs, as you spend your credit card or as you pay for costs in cash, you start writing them down on a piece of paper or on an Excel file, for instance. And you make sure that you write some description. What is the expense for? What is the date that that expense has been accrued? And also the amount for that expense. You keep doing this for the entire month. At the end of the month, what we want to do is we want to have a full list of all your expenses, and you are going to be able to see how much in total you've spent in that month. Now, I know that there are certain expenses that are for the entire year. So let's say if you have a membership for Amazon, or let's say you have a membership for a gym and you pay for those costs once a year, those are the type of expenses that the way you want to capture them is you want to try to divide them equally over the months, because that's the expense that you pay maybe only once a year, but at the same time you have to divide it by 12 to try to apply it equally throughout the month. The same type of expenses applies to, let's say, your car insurance. So that's how you go about that. I'm going to show you with some examples here on the screen now. As you can see, you're going to list all your expenses one by one, the descriptions and the dates. And for the expenses that are for the entire year, you're going to input them and then divide them by 12, for example, if it's once a year, and that way you're going to have the monthly balance for the expenses. You're going to follow the similar approach for measuring your income. So the most obvious thing is if you're working a full-time job, or even if you're working a part-time job, you're going to get your paycheck. So whatever that amount of the paycheck is, if it's a bi-weekly paycheck that you get, you are going to list it with the dates, and say if it's a bi-weekly check, you want to times it by 2 to see how much income you have in a month. Don't forget also any side hustles that you might have. For instance, if you do tutorials and on the side and make income through that channel, or if say you do drive Uber, or if you do Airbnb, or any other sort of incomes that you might have, make sure you still list them there. If there are certain incomes again that are maybe seasonal and only apply maybe several times in a year, get their total balance and then divide it by the number of months. That way again, you're going to divide it equally to give you an idea so that it's comparable on a monthly basis how much income on average you bring home. Same thing applies if your income fluctuates. Let's say if you're an entrepreneur, certain months you're going to have more income and certain months you're going to have less income. What you want to do is try to have the average per month. That is the first step of the MOE budgeting technique. Now, the second step is the step for you to start organizing your expenses and your budgets. This is where you take a second look at your expenses and try to categorize them. Previously, you might have had 40 to 50 line items of expenses, but it's so hard to analyze your expenses if you look at them one by one. Instead, you want to group them into big buckets of expenses. You might have expense buckets such as transportation. If you're paying for your car repair, if you're paying for your car fuel, or maybe if you're actually busing and use the bus or public transit, again, those are the category of transportation. If you're renting or if you're owning a home, there might be again some costs associated with your home, whether it's a rental fee, whether it's a condo fee, whether it's maybe electricity for your home. Those are the type of expenses that you can categorize as home expenses. You might also have a different category. One of the categories that I do have is grocery shopping. In a month, you may go pay a visit to a grocery store, a convenience store to buy certain food items for your home, right? So those are the things that you can have as a grocery category. And of course, you might have additional categories depending on really your needs. One of the pieces that I do have is my cell phone bill. That's something that maybe you can list as telecommunications or communications channels. You might include in there if you want. If you have a cable TV, you can add it there. You can also add maybe your internet, home internet there if you so choose to. There's no definite right or wrong way of doing it. It's really at the end of the day how you define those categories and then how you go about them. Why this step is so important? Because when we get to the organized step of the technique, here's where you're going to, based on your past months, and if you have time, maybe even based on several past months, you're going to identify what's been the average cost for each of these categories. And then in this stage, that's where you're trying to take a kind of more critical lens to your cost and try to set some target. Looking back at my own expenses, I've noticed that for the category of grocery shopping, typically I spend close to $150 to $200 per month. At the organized phase, I decided that I'm going to set a target for my grocery shopping per month. So on average per month, I do not want to spend more than $200, for instance. That was my target, and that's the target that I try to abide by all the time. The way I go about it is that in the following months, as I started spending money, as I start to capture those expenses, I make sure that I don't surpass that target for my grocery shopping. If I'm getting close to it, I will try to be mindful of that and try to minimize my spending. And at the same time, it also can be a good challenge, because if I get to spend less than that target in a month, that's just a sign that I have some leftovers which I could either carry over to the subsequent month, or that allows me to save more money into my savings and investing account. The organized phase is also where you are going to decide how much and what proportion of your income you're going to actually set aside to save. I always use the technique commonly known as pay yourself first technique. So the pay yourself technique is a type of technique that tells you, as you earn income and as you get your paycheck, the first thing that you want to do, you want to commit yourself to pay yourself first. And what it is that you want to take automatically a proportion of your income and save it. Either save it into a normal savings account or pay it into an investment account. My style of saving is really trying to put it into a low-cost index fund through investment account that I have with Wealthsimple, but also save a portion of it into a normal savings account just for a rainy day in case I need some funds for my emergency fund. Definitely make sure that before you spend that income, you put it aside and save it. That's very important for your financial freedom, for you to ensure that you are going to have a better financial future. That's all about the organized phase of the MOE budgeting technique. The last step is enhance. So what we mean by the enhance step is, here's a step where you try to continuously monitor your expenses, continuously check where you are as opposed to your target, and then you try to improve over time. The enhanced step is a step where you try to challenge your day-to-day habit. Just because you've been spending certain amount of funds on certain categories, say on transportation or on grocery, it doesn't mean that you have to continue doing the same. Here's where you try to challenge yourself. At this stage, you try to see if there are opportunities for you to try to save more, try to cut some costs that are hidden costs that you may not pay attention to. A typical type of cost that you may not pay attention to as much is banking fees. Nowadays, we are so busy with our day-to-day life that we do not pay attention to that $5 or $10 or sometimes $15 banking fee that is a recurring fee being charged to our accounts, and we think that that's normal. To be honest, that's something that you can easily avoid, because nowadays there's so much competition out there. There are so many different banks that are offering you different types of accounts, and they want to earn your business. So you can certainly find way better options trying to shop around and find bank accounts that do not charge any fee whatsoever. Well, there you have it, folks, the simple 3-step method of MOE budgeting technique. Let me know in the comment section below what you thought of this technique. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please smash the like button and join our channel for more videos about financing, investing, and personal development. Have a great day.